John had always relied on his alarm clock to wake him up in the morning. He depended on that sound to get him out of bed and start his day. It seemed like a natural routine, but deep down, John knew something was wrong. He realized that he had allowed this external factor to control his actions. He had become too lazy to get up without needing a sound to prompt him, and it was starting to affect his life. John was living as if tomorrow was always going to be there, always thinking he had time. The truth was, the alarm clock didn't have any real power over him. It wasn't the clock that determined his success or failure, it was his own will. The more he thought about it, the clearer it became that he had been allowing laziness to dictate his choices. The sound of the alarm clock was simply a crutch, a way for him to avoid taking responsibility for his own actions. John realized that he needed to make a change. It was time for him to take control of his life. He could no longer wait for the clock to wake him up. He had to wake himself up, both physically and mentally. It wasn't going to be easy, but he knew it was necessary. His life was precious, and he had to rebuild it. It was time to stop depending on something external to take action. Instead, John needed to hit the reset button and start living with intention. No more excuses. No more waiting. John's journey had to begin with him taking the first step, getting out of bed and taking responsibility for his own future. David had always known that life was not going to be easy. There were always obstacles to face, times when he felt completely broken and lost. But through every difficult moment, he found a way to push forward. He understood that life could sometimes seem overwhelming, but it was in those moments that true strength was built. David had come to realize that it wasn't about avoiding hardships, it was about learning to rise above them. When things went wrong, when life knocked him down, David didn't stay down for long. Instead of giving in to despair, he took the opportunity to rebuild, stronger than before. He knew that challenges were inevitable, but they didn't define him. What mattered was how he responded. He believed that with faith, strength, and a clear sense of purpose, he could always put his life back together. David understood that everyone would experience times of difficulty. There would be moments when it felt like nothing was going right, and no matter how hard he tried, success seemed out of reach. But he also knew that this phase was temporary. No matter how broken his life seemed, it was always possible to repair it. The key was to never give up, even when it felt impossible. With every setback, David found the strength to keep going. He understood that the path to success was never smooth, but that was what made the journey worthwhile. He didn't have time to dwell on his failures. Instead, he focused on the future, determined to take every opportunity to make his life better, no matter what. David's message was clear: never give up, never stop believing, and always keep pushing forward. Sarah had always found comfort in relying on others. She would often wait for someone to step in and help her, especially when things got difficult. But as time went by, she realized that this approach was not working for her anymore. Sarah came to understand that she couldn't always wait for someone else to save her. If she truly wanted to succeed in life, she had to take full responsibility for her own actions. The world wasn't going to wait for her to catch up, and no one was coming to pull her out of her struggles. It was a hard lesson, but one that Sarah knew she had to learn. She understood that depending on others for her happiness and success was not the way to go. She had to be her own source of strength, and if she wanted to make a change, it had to come from within herself. No one could live her life for her, only she had the power to shape her future. Sarah knew that it wouldn't always be easy. There would be times when she felt overwhelmed, when it seemed like everything was falling apart. But she also realized that these moments were temporary, and the power to change her situation was in her hands. She had the ability to pick herself up and keep going, no matter how hard it was. She made a promise to herself that she would never wait for someone else to fix her problems again. She would take control of her life, push past the obstacles, and never look for a way out. Her future was hers to create, and it was time to start building it, one decision at a time. Emily had always known that time was precious, but she never fully understood just how short it really was. She would often find herself wasting time on things that didn't matter, waiting for the right moment to make a change. But as she grew older, she began to realize that time was not something to be taken for granted. Every day that passed was one she would never get back. Emily understood that she couldn't afford to keep putting off her dreams and goals. She had to start living with purpose, because life was too short to waste. It was a wake-up call for Emily when she realized how much time she had spent feeling sorry for herself and waiting for things to improve. She had always been waiting for the perfect moment, the right circumstances, or someone else to make things better. But now, she saw things differently. No one was coming to change her life for her. She was the one responsible for creating the life she wanted. Every day mattered, and Emily was determined to make the most of every opportunity. She understood that if she kept waiting for the right time, she would never accomplish anything. Time was too valuable to waste on regrets or missed opportunities. Emily made the decision to stop waiting and start acting. She realized that the future was not something she could take for granted. The time to act was now. She could no longer wait for things to magically fall into place. If she wanted to create the life she envisioned, she had to start taking action, one step at a time. Emily promised herself that she would no longer waste time. Her life was too important. James had always known that life wasn't meant to be easy. It was full of challenges, some of which seemed impossible to overcome. There were times when he felt completely overwhelmed, moments when life knocked him down and made him question if he could ever get back on track. But despite everything, James never gave up. He understood that setbacks were a part of life, and rather than seeing them as insurmountable obstacles, he chose to view them as opportunities to grow stronger. James knew that his path to success wouldn't be a smooth ride. He faced criticism, rejection, and plenty of moments where he felt completely defeated. But what made the difference was his determination to keep going. Every time life knocked him down, he picked himself up and kept moving forward. It wasn't about avoiding difficulties, it was about learning how to face them head-on and not letting them define him. With every challenge, James grew more resilient. He understood that success wasn't just about achieving goals, but about having the perseverance to keep trying, even when it felt like nothing was going right. He knew that, at times, life would break him down, but it didn't mean that he was broken forever. Each setback was a chance to rebuild, to come back stronger. James' attitude was simple but powerful. No matter how tough life got, he would keep fighting. He knew that success wasn't just for the lucky few, it was for those who were willing to keep going, no matter the odds. And through his resilience, James built the strength to push through anything that came his way, knowing that every challenge was a stepping stone toward his future. Samantha had always been someone who looked to others for validation and happiness. She depended on the support of her family, friends, and even her colleagues to feel good about herself. But as time went by, she began to realize that this reliance on others was not helping her grow. It was keeping her stuck in a cycle of dependence, waiting for others to make her life better. Samantha soon understood that true happiness and fulfillment came from within, and it was up to her to take control of her own life. It wasn't easy for Samantha to accept this reality. She had always been taught to seek approval from others, to be dependent on the support of those around her. But as she started to reflect on her life, she realized that she couldn't keep waiting for someone else to rescue her. If she wanted to make a change, she needed to take responsibility for her own actions. No one else could live her life for her. Samantha made the decision to stop relying on others for her happiness. She knew that she had to find the strength to create her own path, to build her own future. There would be times when things would get tough, when she would feel like giving up. But she now understood that these challenges were not reasons to quit. They were opportunities to grow stronger and more resilient. She made a promise to herself that from now on, she would no longer wait for someone else to save her. Samantha would take full ownership of her life, her decisions, and her future. Her happiness was in her hands, and it was time to start taking control.